And yes, we even talked to a few media members to get a little background from them. We had great interest in the position, and the name we kept coming back to throughout was Rich Rodriguez. And I want to tell you about 3 conversations that stuck out, and as you can imagine, there were a lot of them as we were going through this process. The first one is Coach Charlie Regal, who's a head football coach at Chaparral High School up in Scottsdale. And they had 2 young men from his program that had signed here out of Arizona, and Coach Rodriguez had recruited to the University of Michigan, and they're still there right now. And after that, Coach Regal and his staff asked, "Can we come back to Ann Arbor? Can we spend some time with you and your staff?" And most of the time you talk to high school coaches when that takes place, oftentimes that college staff will say, "Here, you spend some time with the operations staff, or you spend some time with our GAs and talk football there." He said, "I'd never dealt with a major college coach that had devoted so much time and interest in our program. And they sat down and talked about football. They sat down and talked about running a program." And Coach Regal told me in all his years he'd never been more impressed in dealing with a coaching staff from a football standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, from a compliance standpoint, and from an academic standpoint. And so that meant a lot to me in what took place there. The other one, I had a long discussion with Urban Meyer during this process, and we talked a lot of things about football and different things. But he said, "Greg," he said, "if you hire Rich Rodriguez, you're getting one of the 5 greatest minds in college football. That would be an incredible hire for the University of Arizona." The other one, and a name that we all know a lot of, is last week when we went to New York. Coach Sean Miller and I spent most of the flight sitting next to each other. And when we were flying out there, we talked about things, and I really respect his opinion and judgment on people. And he said, "Greg, I think about a couple things. Who's the most hungry guy out there? And the second thing is, who do the other coaches in the Pac-12 not want to have show up in Tucson, Arizona?" And he said, "in my opinion, it's Rich Rodriguez." If you go through his bio and you look, this man understands hard work and success and how those 2 things come together. And I want us all to welcome Coach Rodriguez and his family to the Arizona family. Welcome out, Coach.
Stretch that a little bit, right, Doc? To fit in there? That's good. Thank you so much. I am really blessed for this opportunity. Obviously, Greg Byrne, Dr. Sander, the Board of Regents, everybody involved in this process. Thanks, Sean, for those comments, wherever you're at. Appreciate that. I am really, really excited about this opportunity and so excited to be here. Before I go on, excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse. I had a little cold, and I want to introduce my family again. My wife, who's I am blessed that she's not only obviously a football or a coach's wife. I mean, she's going to embrace this family like you've never seen before. It's my wife, Frida, right there. Give her a round of applause, please. She's got a little bit of a cold too, and so her voice is worse than mine. But that's for me and all the media that's going to ask her questions is probably a good thing for me. So she can't talk very much today. My daughter Raquel, who's 15, is a sophomore in high school, right there. And then my son Rhett, who is 13 years old, I redshirted him. He's in the 7th grade. Right there, Rhett. I will make an announcement here while I have the time. You know, he's in the quarterback class of 2017. He's actually one of the top 5 quarterbacks recruited in that class of 2017. Originally, he was committed to West Virginia. He decommitted from there. Then he was committed to University of Michigan. He decommitted there. He's got a solid verbal commitment to the University of Arizona. So, I I will not let him decommit from Arizona. I promise you that. But one of the main reasons, obviously, there's a lot of reasons to be here at Arizona. There's certainly the location, being a chance. We've always talked about my family and I being able to live in somewhere warm. I hadn't done that yet, but obviously the location is outstanding. The reputation of the university academically and athletically is top notch. I think the opportunity, particularly now with the Pac-12, I think is going to take off like it's never taken off before. And another main reason, and I'm not just saying this because he hired me, is Greg Byrne. I know Greg for a couple years and always respected what he did and got to know him a little bit and just kind of followed his career. He's an aggressive go-getter. He's a coach's AD. He gets it. And I've been fortunate to work with a lot of good athletic directors, but I was really excited when I had a chance to talk with Greg. And I'm sure he'll tell you if you ask him, I mean, he went through his due diligence. He called a whole lot of people because they wound up telling me that he was calling about me. And I'm talking about not just other coaches and Urban Meyer and, other athletic directors and people from the NCAA and compliance people. It was my first grade teacher, the grocery clerk down the street. I mean, it was everybody and anybody. They said, Coach, you know a guy named Greg Byrne? I said, I know what he's talking about. So he did his process, and that's what makes me, I guess, even more flattered to be here because I know that he had a lot of guys that were interested in this job, and why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't they be? And that's important. And I know you've had some history of success. You have to give me a little time to study up on everything because this process, even though Greg took a few weeks to do this, for me it was quicker than that. But I am learning. Obviously I've known about some of the great teams that you've had here. In fact, I talked to a good friend of mine, Coach Dick told me last night. I've known he and his wife Nancy for quite some time, and we talked a little bit about it, and I'm going to meet with them more. Some of the great players you had here in the 90s and now, and even before that, there's a lot of great players. And I want all you lettermen that are here to know that you have an open invitation to come back and visit with me and visit with our staff. I think it's important that if you gave of yourself as a student athlete here, and I know all the other coaches feel the same way, that you feel welcome back, and you will. I guarantee you feel, and you're welcome back immediately, and you always have been. I know that. But just because I did not go to the University of Arizona, and this is my first time here, don't think for an instant that I don't want you around, because I do. I can't let you call the plays unless you're on the staff, but I do want you around. And I'm reaching, there's a lot of guys that I want to know. I want you all to tell me, to help me have success here. I want to win the Rose Bowl at the University of Arizona. I want to be in the top 10 of the country every year. I want every one of our players to graduate with a University of Arizona degree, and I want them to represent our university the right way on and off the field. And those are the things I want to talk to our players about every day. Every day. And you've done that. Teddy Bruschi's and Chuck Cecil and Ricky Hunley and all the great players you have, they've always had great passion and always represented this place the right way. And that going forward, that's what we'll do. And I want to echo what Greg said about Tim. I just got a chance to talk to him a little bit, Tim Kish, because we have some mutual friends in the profession. But I think what he's done in a difficult situation has been absolutely remarkable. And I think that's what Tim's all about. And I had some friends, I've been fortunate, to have some opportunities, and I don't know what else was going on, and there were some other places maybe being interested, but, people said, well, Arizona, what's appealing to there? I said, they've had success here. It's not like you've not won games. You won games before, Coach told me. Mike Stoops did some great things here. There's some good football players on this football team. There's some good coaches here. Mike Stoops is a good football player. There are some things that obviously once I get through spring practice and evaluate everything, and I know where we stand, and however long it's going to take, I know I have a 5-year contract, and some people, when you have a 5-year contract, 5 years doesn't mean 5 years. But I want to tell you this, I know what you have in this administration. I know how important it is for you to have success in the football program. And you will I will not just coach University of Arizona football. I'm going to live it. And my family will live it. Everybody on my staff will live it. My players will live it. So, I guess maybe, again, I got a neat perspective because I go down and I see the beautiful weather, and it's a great college town. I mean, I've been fortunate to live in college communities. You got a great college town that supports your university, supports your athletics. You got great academics, you got great weather. You're in an outstanding league who's going to continue to get even more and more exposure. You can recruit great players from your area to come down here. So why not Arizona? Right? Why not us? Why can't we win it all? And why, to me, and I'm not, this sounds, I know I'll be undefeated for another 6 months or so I can brag, but, you know, why would not, my goal is to make this the place in the southwest and western part of the country to come play football and get your degree. Why not Arizona? And I know, and I can tell by your reaction today when you talked about the Territorial Cup and how important that game is with the folks up the road. It'll be emphasized every day how important that rivalry game is with ASU. Trust me on that. I'm sure Coach Kish will tell you that wasn't a hard game to get the guys motivated for, but he still was doing it, and they showed it obviously on the field. So, and I'm also excited about getting to meet the students. You know, I know Coach Miller has that Zona Zoo cranked up, and they do it at the football games too. And there's 39,000 students. So how many folks that we can fit in a stadium in the Zona Zoo? I want to be able to double it. I want them sitting on their laps in the Zona Zoo. And I'm going to do all I can to get those folks excited about that as well. And, you know, and you've had, it's not just in football. Look at the success you've had in other sports. You know, in softball and basketball. I mean, you know, Coach Miller was signing the #1 recruiting class in the country. You know, so it's, and I don't want to come up here. Some coaches will come up here and give you false promises and things like that. You know, I know the reason I was hired. I was hired, obviously, to win games and win championships, to graduate our kids, to make sure they're good people, represent us the right way, to be compliant, and make sure you're part of the community. I understand all those reasons why. And I can assure you this, I guarantee you, you'll get my best effort and whoever's on my staff's best effort every day. Right now, I'm going to be here for a day and a half, and then we're going to go to Thanksgiving for a day in Florida so we can get used to that warm weather. Because I don't know if I'm going back up cold weather again. But then I'm coming back Friday, and I'm here for good. And I want to stay away, that Coach Kish and his staff and the players finish out with a big win this Saturday, and then we're going to hit recruiting full speed. In case you all want to ask questions about the staff, you know, there'll be a few guys that are probably hired quicker, and then I'll be more deliberate than I've ever been in my career hiring the rest. So maybe up to a month before I complete the staff. You know, recruiting in this area, I'm not talking this area, obviously the state of Arizona is going to be very, very important. There's good football players in the state. There's great football coaches in the state. I've recruited. I know. I've recruited California. I know how important that state is. The state of Texas, the state of Louisiana, and we'll still stay in Florida. Now, I prefer, if I can, to stay, you know, kind of warm weather states, if I could. But we'll go anywhere in the country. I think you will have a brand name, or we have a good enough brand name to go anywhere in the country. You know, when you got to think about it. When you recruit in December and January, they come on their official visits. You think it's not pretty attractive to come to Tucson, Arizona in January, particularly if you're in some of those places up north? I think it's pretty attractive. But our main recruiting areas are going to be what they always have been here. And we're going to hit them pretty hard, and my staff will reflect that. Not all of them, but some of them will reflect that. They've had experience recruiting those key areas. So that'll happen as well. I hope, and I also want to know that I'm talking to the fans as well. You know, I'm usually a pretty open person when it comes to getting to know myself, my staff, our family, and our program. Now, obviously, there are certain times, like during the season, I can't have open practices and things like that. But there are going to be many times, and most of the times in the spring, where it is open. I want you all to be around. I want you to ask questions. I want you to get to know the staff, get to know our players, and get to know me. You know, I almost worry sometimes, and I shouldn't. What do they think of Coach Rodriguez? Because who knows what's been written the last 3 or 4 or 10 years. You know, and some of it is simply because I don't think people have really gotten to know you. And I want you all to get to know me. And I want the media, all of you media folks here, because I spent the last 6 months on the other side of the camera, on the dark side, so to speak, I've got a great appreciation with the job that you all have to do. So I think that'll help me going forward as well, and you'll get to know us. For all you Arizona fans, you'll get to know our program as well. The only thing I will promise you is when you watch us play, it won't be boring. All right? We're going to have fun watching it, and they'll play as hard as any team you've seen in the country. That thing we can control. We can control that from the very first play we play come September. You'll see a passion team. You'll see a team that's committed. You'll see a team in great shape, and you'll see a team that plays hard. And when we win championships, I'm not going to give you a date. I'll give you more of a projection about where we're at after spring practice. But like I said, you won some big games this year. Coach Kitchen and staff have done a tremendous job, and there's some good football players here. And I hope they're committed. And I'm going to have a chance to talk to them here in a couple minutes and very briefly. And next week I'll get to talk to them a little bit longer. But without going any further, again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I am blessed. This is my final coaching stop. I hope to be able to do this another 12 or 15 years. We'll talk later about some of the goals we have from our players, but I think I told Greg this when we were talking. I said, it sounds kind of corny, but my number one goal as a coach, and I've been a head coach for 18 years, is that for every player I ever coached, whatever team I was at, after their career was over, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road, they would be able to call me up and say, Coach, I do the same thing at the same place with the same people. If they say that, I did my job. I want you all, whenever it's 20, 30 years down the road, and you ask Greg Byrne, I'd hire the same guy at the same place at the same time. I know he did his job and I did my job. So I'm blessed to be here. Blessed to be here. Go Arizona. Bear down.